So I've continued to watch quite a few horror movies for October, even though it's just November now. Just had a lot of movies I haven't reviewed yet. So this one I first kind of heard about from one of the podcasts that I listen to. It's a really funny podcast called How Did This Get Made? It has Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas from a show called The League. It's really funny, so they talk about these usually pretty bad movies, and they just review them and talk about them, and it's just really funny. They do it in a really funny way, kind of getting to the point of how did some of these really bad movies get made? And this is one of the earliest ones they did. This is Sleepaway Camp from 1983. So that's kind of how I heard about it. It was on their podcast. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of a cult 80s slasher film. So that's kind of the genre that it's in. It doesn't really have any recognizable names in it. There's no actors that really went on to do anything else. The writer and director is Robert Hiltzik. He didn't really do anything else either. But the story is based around, it starts with like a cold open of two kids, a boy and a girl. They're with their dad on a boat, and there's like a tragic accident. And the dad's killed, one of the kids is killed, and then it like smash cuts to like multiple years later, and the kid's grown up, and the story is based around the kid and the cousin. So there's a boy and a girl. They're cousins. One of them's a little bit older than the other. The girl hasn't been to the sleepaway camp yet, but the boy has. So it's her first time there, and she's really shy, really quiet. And just throughout the film, people start getting killed. It's usually people that are some way being really mean or making fun of either the boy or the girl. So these cousins. So all the people that are getting killed are being mean to one or both of them. So that's the basis of the story. It's a pretty bad movie. The acting's not good. The kills aren't very good either. They're pretty poor. But it is kind of funny. It's pretty funny if you just take it as like a very lighthearted movie, or not lighthearted movie, but just like think of it in a not serious tone. It's a very formulaic 80s slasher where it's set on a lake with people in camp. So that's nothing new. The big mystery is who's actually killing all these people, and there is a very big twist at the end. So that's like probably the only reason to watch the movie is either if you're like a diehard 80s slasher fan, then you like all those Friday the 13th type movies where it's set on a lake or at a camp with a bunch of kids. But I mean, the biggest reason is to just like, it's interesting as like a curiosity of what happens at the end. I don't want to spoil it, but it is like a pretty big twist that's kind of interesting. So yeah, like I said, the acting's not very good, but it is kind of funny to see these young kids like really swearing and being pretty vulgar, or what you might expect kids to be like with the swearing and stuff. It's not like clean cut. It's more like the Bad News Bears, when the kids actually swear. It's just kind of funny to see that. There's a really big disconnect between the age of some of the campers. So the two main kids, the cousins, are Angela and Ricky. And they're like with their group of friends. They're probably between 11 and 13, I'd say. And then there's like the older kids, and I'm guessing that group of kids is supposed to be maybe 16, 17. They're on the older end of the spectrum of who's at this camp, but they're played by like actors that are at least like 24, 25. So it just looks ridiculous because there's like some quarreling and fighting between the two groups, the younger kids and the older kids. And it's just kind of ridiculous because the actors that are playing the older kids are just so much older. But it just kind of adds to the some of the hilarity of it. So I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. It's not a good movie by any means. It's kind of in a weird zone of, it's not so bad that it's good, like The Room or Birdemic or something like that. It's not like a complete shit show and just like really low budget. It's kind of, A little bit better than that, production wise, but it just doesn't really have much going on except for the story, and kind of the twist is somewhat interesting. Other movies that it's reminded me of are, like I mentioned, Friday the 13th. It's that very same formula, as well as like The Burning, which I just reviewed not too long ago. And then another one that's kind of funny is Wet Hot American Summer. It has a lot of very, very similar scenes. It's, set in like a camp in the late 70s, early 80s. A lot of really short shorts being worn, and there's actually like kind of similar scenes in Wet Hot American Summer and this movie, so that's kind of interesting to make that parallel. So yeah, I would suggest if you do want to watch this, I would listen to the podcast of How Did This Get Made for this movie, and then watch the movie and then listen to the podcast. It's kind of funny to listen to that podcast and then watch the movie as like a pairing. So yeah, if you really, really, really want to like watch all of the '80s horror movies and set in a camp, you could check it out, but it's not something that you really need to see. So yeah, again, a 2 out of 5.